Content warning. This video contains discussion about difficult subjects from the outset. Child abuse, paedophilia, incest.
I believed her. She was so convincing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm this horrible person. And the only thing I could tell her right back was, I'm sorry. And unfortunately, she took that as admission that I did lie and that I did do all these things. And I'm the reason. And she told me, I'm disowning you. You're no longer my family. I don't love you. Don't ever talk to me or my family ever again. I ended up going back out and contacting my cousin again, my cousin who that I thought I was trying to help, because the only reason why I was trying to help her in the first place is because there's been 3 instances in our childhood that she tried telling me that our uncle was doing the same things that he was doing to me. And a little warning. Well, I'm gonna go a little in depth of what he was doing. For him, my uncle was kind of smart because at the time when I was like around the ages of 2 or 3, what he would do was that he'd show me his genitals, and then he'd make me do stuff to him, but he wouldn't touch me at all. And he made a huge show that he wasn't touching me, but he'd coach me through what he wanted me to do to him. And unfortunately, when I was like around 5 or 6, and my cousin was barely around. I'm probably mixing up the ages now I think about it, because I think she's like 5 or 6 years between us. But when she was like around a toddler, I ended up catching him do the same thing that he did to me to her, and I didn't know what to do. So I kind of just like closed the door and left her with my uncle. And a second time that she tried telling me, she was around 8, and I think I was around 13 at that time. She tried asking me, hey, has uncle ever done anything to you? And then she tried describing it, and I shut her down. And it's like, we don't talk about that at 8 years old. I shut her down, and it's probably one of my biggest regrets, because I at the time, he was threatening me that if I told someone that he, that people would stop loving me. And I didn't want, my grandparents to stop loving me. So I told my cousin, I'm like, when she was telling me, and I'm like, we don't talk about that. And I basically shamed her, and she just stayed silent. And then the third time she tried reaching out to me one last time. It was finally the time I actually tried to do something. That was when I was around 15. And I think she was like barely 13 or something. And she basically told me that what he was doing to her. And then, but not only my uncle, but there was another cousin of her side who was older, was also doing stuff to her as well. And I remember the conversation. She was crying and I was crying, and I was telling her I'm so sorry. And that she told me she didn't know what to do. She already went to her mom to it. And the only thing her mom told her was that sexually abused in large families happen, and that it's normal, and to just move on, because they don't want anybody to get in trouble, and to forgive them. That's basically that's what my aunt told her. And at 15, I'm like, holy shit, that's not cool. So I ended up telling my dad, and that's when everything kind of broke out. Anyways, I ended up contacting her around the time she turned like 19 or 20. And by that time, I already knew she was like in college, and that I kind of assumed like, oh, she's an adult now, so maybe hopefully, her mom won't come at me for trying to talk to her. I went up to her Facebook, her Instagram, not gonna lie, I was like kind of stalking. It was a little creepy because I didn't have her number or anything anymore. And I made the mistake of starting the conversation of trying to apologize to the times I didn't believe, or I didn't do anything back then. And then also apologizing for our parents, my father and her mother always fighting. Like, it was like such an awkward conversation starter. I think at that point, I was still kind of like messed up over my family turning their backs on me, and then my family turning their backs on her. So in my mind, we're like two similar people that was just getting fucked over by our family. So I I still had the mentality that I need to save her. I need to save her. I need to be the person that comes and saves her. And so I came into her with a savior's mentality, which was not the right thing to do to someone like that, because she ended up writing me a huge long essay, basically, of telling me that all the stuff I said had happened never happened, that our uncle never did anything to her, and that I'm a liar, and that she used to love me, and that I broke her heart, and I'm the reason why we broke up the family. I'm the reason why everything's I could see all the hurt and pain that she went through, and she just pretty much blamed me for everything. And basically telling me that I'm the reason why she had to live the life she had to live, that I'm a liar, that it was pretty heartbreaking. That day I felt like I died, because what I imagined who she was and who she was in that moment, it did not compute. It felt like my brain short-circuited. And I couldn't get mad at her for like blaming me or accusing me of lying, and of calling me disgusting, and that I needed help. Because, to be honest, at that time, 4 years ago, I believed her. She was so convincing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm this horrible person. And the only thing I could tell her right back was, I'm sorry. And unfortunately, she took that as admission that I did lie, and that I did do all these things, and I'm the reason. And she told me, I'm disowning you. You're no longer my family. I don't love you. Don't ever talk to me or my family ever again. And I'm like, okay. So that's when I stopped contacting her. And I'm like, well, this is not the imaginary fairy tale reunion that I thought we would have.
Angel's cousin Maya wasn't received by her mother in the same loving way that Angel was by her father. Her father's support allowed Angel to begin the process of healing and not have to deny her own reality. The minimization of Maya's abuse by her mother lay the foundations for Maya's denial of her own abuse. This denial caused a rift between Angel and her, changing Angel from a fellow survivor and confidant to a liar in Maya's eyes. The details of the abuse were identical, but in this family the parents responded differently, and in a very understandable way their daughters responded differently too. One parent chose to take action to protect the victim, the other chose to normalise the abuse. Angel's family, like all dysfunctional families, have trouble expressing their thoughts and feelings. They are often unaware of and have trouble acknowledging the motivations underpinning their words and actions. Maya misinterpreted Angel's apology as an admission of wrongdoing. Angel herself shut down her cousin when she spoke up about the abuse she suffered by their uncle. She had of course been threatened by her perpetrator against speaking out. These two victims weren't able to communicate clearly and openly with one another. They weren't equipped with the skills required to hold difficult conversations with others. These were skills that Angel would go on to learn throughout the process of her own healing and recovery. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed listening to Angel's story. If you'd like to support this channel, you can donate to our PayPal, which is on your screen now. The link is also in the description. We hope to see you back here soon.